Hello, everyone. I'm Alice Ancona. I'm Senior Vice President and COO of the World Trade Center Miami. And today we're going to have a conversation with a member of the World Trade Center and a friend, Olga Ramudo. Olga is President and CEO of Express Travel, which she started in 1989 with her sister and her best friend. And she grew it to be one of the leading travel management companies in the United States. The Secretary of Commerce has appointed Olga to a third term for the U.S. Travel and Tourism Board. She also sits on the National Board of the American Society of Travel Advisors and is board member of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce and member of their International Committee, executive committee member and treasurer of the Beacon Council, member of the Tourism Development Council for Miami-Dade County, as well as what I just mentioned, a board member of the World Trade Center Miami. Hello, Olga. Thank you for joining us this morning. We wanted to talk a little bit about tourism. And I know that this is something that you've dedicated not only your professional career to, but it's something that you clearly are active in as board members to both local and national boards. This is something that you're an advocate for, and it's an important part of Florida's economy. So before we begin, I wanted to give it a little context about how significant tourism is to our state and to our community. Florida's economy depends heavily on tourism. In 2019, 9.1 million were employed in tourism. 1.3 million have jobs related to the tourism industry, and visitor spend was $94 billion. So it's a significant impact on our economy. And of course, with COVID, we've seen tourism fade completely away. It's now beginning to come back. So I wanted to share not just this information with you, but to have Olga talk a little bit about what the impact has been to us locally and perhaps, from a broader perspective. So Olga, if you could share not only a little bit about your business, but what we've seen here on a local impact.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you for having me. Thank you to the World Trade Center. As you said, tourism is critical to our economy, not only to Florida, it's actually critical to the world economy. 10.3 of the world's GDP is dependent on travel and tourism, and that means 330 million jobs worldwide, or 1 in 10. So that's how significant travel and tourism is. For Express Travel, like you said, Express Travel has been in business for 31 years. We are comprised of corporate, vacation, study abroad, meetings and incentives, and cruise departments. So we are affected in every which sector, as you can imagine. We have laid off or furloughed 2/3 of our employees. And I mean, it's tough times for the tourism industry. Now, for Florida, and particularly for Miami-Dade County, there are studies that says that our tourism is improving. I think that can be very much so for other parts of the state. We didn't have as many closures. We had more closures. We had more restrictions in Miami-Dade and Broward than we did in the rest of the state. For example, July 4th weekend, our beaches were all closed. So Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach residents went and looked what beach was open. And they basically left our area. And that's why, actually hotels at that time, not only were they full in other parts of Florida, but the rates were astronomically high because the hotels were full. And of course, there's a lot of restrictions and a lot of guidelines that they have to follow with increased costs. So yes, we are dramatically affected. Our city hotels in our areas are down to 80% less occupancy, so 20% occupancy. I have talked to several of them, and that is the impact they're having. Closing of restaurants, which they were inside many hotels, has also impacted them. Whoever has outdoor seating, although the municipalities are being very, lenient in outdoor seatings. You go, like the other day, I passed by Ponce de Leon and Coral Gables, and I saw tables set out literally in the street. So, we're being very lenient, which is good, but still, they're less and less and less than 50% of what they would have been, a lot less, and with a lot of expenses on guidelines that they had to follow, whether it's the shields, whether it's the sanitizers, everything that they had to do.
So I wanted to build a little bit on that. And you made a mention of, just a couple of studies, and I read one from Destination Florida that showed an uptick, not just in hotel occupancy, but also in employment. And to your point, there were in parts of Florida that opened or did not have as much restrictions as we do here in South Florida. But something that we have noticed is the cost. And, there's going to be additional costs for these businesses to operate, not just restaurants, but also hotels. How much do you think that'll be a deterrent as people start moving around a little bit more, situation improves? How much do you think that would be a deterrent for people to travel or to come here, for example, these added costs that hotels need to incur or restaurants need to take on to provide for a better, cleaner, more sanitized environment for regulations?
I think it will definitely, because who can afford it and who cannot. It just comes out to that. I looked at some hotels for July 4th weekend, 4-star hotels, and there were $400 or $500 a night. So, and some others were less depending on the hotel, but they have to cover their costs. Hotel have to cover their cost. I think the way the economy is, it might be a deterrent, absolutely. However, it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't situation. Hotels must cover their costs. So what do we do? Where do we go?
Absolutely. Another big part of our tourism economy is cruising. And we all heard at the beginning of this COVID situation, obviously how the cruise lines were impacted. Cruising has been suspended, I think, through mid-September or even end of September. Some cruise lines have extended when they will be, offline before they start cruising again. We are the cruise capital of the world. The top 3 cruise ports are here in the state of Florida, but Miami is the cruise capital of the world, and we depend on a lot of that business, not just from a tourism perspective, but also from a business perspective, as these cruise lines purchase a lot of products that get placed on board. The cruise ships use it, the cruise, etc. So if you could talk a little bit about the impact on cruising and what you see as could be happening going forward in terms of reopening or restarting cruising.
Now, for Miami and South Florida, Port Everglades as well, it's like a double whammy. It's a double whammy because, like you said, our port is so huge, is so large. We are the cruise capital of the world. So because we're so large, not cruising impacts us more than it would others. I think cruising is going to take a bit. Just yesterday, this week, there were 4 cruise lines that had to go back to port, one in Alaska, one in Europe, one in Australia, because they had infected passengers with COVID. So that obviously does not give confidence to the CDC. It doesn't give confidence to the passenger, although we are seeing bookings for 2021. There are great offers there, and if you had a cruise booked, and if you postponed it, you got 125% credit. So some people are, but I think cruising is going to take a bit. For us, the impact is huge. We also had expansion of different terminals at the port, that some of them have been placed on hold for obvious reasons. So, will it come back? Absolutely. But it's going to take a bit.
Thank you for that. And finally, I think it was yesterday, the Department of State and the CDC announced the lifting of global level 4 health advisory. And I believe, if I understood it correctly, it provides country-to-country information for U.S. passengers that are looking to travel internationally. So now it's not a blanket restriction, but now you can go on a country-by-country basis. If you can talk a little bit about that, and perhaps talk to us about the importance of international travel, in particular to the South Florida economy and to our tourism economy here in the state.
Yeah, yesterday's announcement is good news, and it's good news because we had a level 4 advisory from the State Department, which basically means, and what it said was, don't travel internationally. So needless to say, that was, nobody that saw that would travel internationally if they could, because right now, most countries are closed. Anyway, what I think this will do is that it will, sometimes there's a lot of, payback time, as I said. So I think that what this will do will have some countries open to us, which right now they were closed. Like you said, international is critical for the South Florida economy. We are an international city. We are the gateway to Latin America. We are the bridge to the rest of the United States and to Europe. 50% of our visitors, of our travelers into Miami International Airport are international. Now, that means 20.2 million visitors with an 18 billion economic impact. That's just from the international visitors. So that can tell you what that means. There were 264 million jobs as the impact for Miami International Airport. 50% of those would be related to international travelers. So it's huge. It's huge. International is key. We are international in every which way of the way for this city. So it's very important.
And perhaps finally, maybe you can talk a little bit about the differentiation between business travel and tourism travel. I know that you've handled both. You've done trade missions for me in the past, and I know you do it for Enterprise Florida. So you handle a lot of business travel as well as just your regular tourism. Do you see business travel picking up, or do you think that would pick up sooner than tourism, or the other way around?
I think tourism will be a bit quicker than business, and only because the corporate travel, they're very careful as to any repercussions, any liabilities with their employees. Most of the major companies that we deal with have travel bans up to the end of the year. Now, at the same time, the question of will travel ever come back? Travel will definitely come back. People are zoomed out. They're conferenced out. People are eager to travel. They're eager. We are relationship driven. There's nothing like a face-to-face meeting. There's nothing like will it come back? Absolutely it will. The issue is when. I am thinking, and studies that I see say the first quarter of next year. Now, back to 2019 levels, IATA, International Airline Transport Association, is predicting that it won't be back till 2023. Now, that's to go back to 2019 levels, which was a record-breaking year for travel and tourism. It doesn't mean we're not going to travel, but it's going to take that time to ramp up. Now, when things open up and when things happen, is everybody going to get on a plane the following day? Absolutely not. So it's going to take time to ramp up. But I think that vacation travel, I get calls, get me out of here. Where can I go? What can I do? People are eager to travel. Just think of yourself. Are you eager to go someplace? Absolutely you are.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's why I say, and of course there's the economic factor as well. Those have been impacted economically. Maybe they can't afford to travel. Although, I have to tell you that even in the crisis way back, everybody continued to travel at a lesser or a higher. Whoever used to travel to a 5-star hotel for 2 weeks to Europe would not go to a 4-star for 5 days to Mexico or for 7 days in the US. But everybody continued to travel. Travel is so ingrained in our lives. We're a global aspect, and we just like to see, we just like to explore, and I don't think that will ever go away.
Absolutely. I miss my travel. I'm
glad to hear that.
Yes. and I am, when I saw the advisory, I said, well, maybe. My family doesn't live here. They live in Mexico, so I haven't seen them, and normally over the summer, that's what I do, is I go visit my parents, my grandparents, my uncles, my cousins, and that didn't happen. So I do miss my travel, and even at the World Trade Center, we had 9 trips scheduled, business trips scheduled from March to June. That's a lot of travel. And we're an international trade organization, and trade depends on that face-to-face interaction. you know, the first step of international trade is meeting someone, is that initial conversation. It's trade begins with a conversation. It really does.
And it begins over, it might be a dinner and a glass of wine.
Yep.
It might be, we are very relationship. And as you know, also, the impact has been tremendous for our conferences. You know, our convention center conferences that we had planned in this city, most of them have been canceled. And yes, it's an impact in every which way. It's an impact on travel, but it's an impact on doing business, as you will say.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, you know, there's only so many things you can do via Zoom or WebEx or whatever the platform is, but that in-person, that face-to-face interaction, that moment where you meet someone potentially for the first time in person and you get to know each other is critical to doing business with them going forward. So I miss it on a personal level, but also on a professional level. You feel that something's missing. It's not the same. It's not the same to meet them virtually as it is in person. So definitely.
And I remember years ago when WebEx came out, our industry, the travel agency community and the meeting planner community, we panicked. We said, oh my goodness, there's never going to be a meeting or a conference or a sales meeting ever again. And of course that didn't happen because, like we are saying, it's the touch, it's the relationship, it's the face, it's that glass of wine and just a simple conversation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Olga. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us not only your perspectives, but your expertise. And we're all hopeful. Obviously, it's not just tourism isn't just something that we all engage in as an international community that we enjoy doing, but it's vital to our economy. It's vital to bringing jobs back. It's vital to the recovery of our economy here in South Florida and in the state of Florida. So we are looking at it with concern, but also hopeful that things will progress in a positive manner, and soon we'll all get back to traveling in one way or another. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.